For newer players, the immense amount of combos and synergies that can be found within the KeyForge card pool can be pretty intimidating, but there are a number of combos out there that are really important to know about, whether they're super powerful or show up in a lot of decks, oftentimes both. In today's video, I'm going to cover 20 must-know KeyForge combos, so whether you're a brand new KeyForge player or a returning player who wants to brush up on their skills, you'll know what to look for in decks that you open or that you're facing in-game. Without further ado, let's get into it. Number 1 is Ronnie Wrist Clocks and Hit and Run, a Worlds Collide exclusive. Ronnie is a stable Shadows creature, stealing 1 Ember upon play, or 2 if your opponent has 7 or more. He's just an all-around good card, but there are a number of cards that he combos with quite nicely that increase his versatility even more. One of these is Hit and Run, allowing you to play him down to steal once, return him to your hand, then play him down a second time to steal again. This is especially dangerous and effective when your opponent has more than 6 Ember, letting you steal 3 or even 4 from them. Just make sure you have a creature to deal damage to aside from your Ronnie when you play Hit and Run so you can complete the whole combo. And since both of these cards are commons, you'll see them show up together pretty frequently. And if you don't have a Hit and Run to go with your Ronnie, look for Chimera Eclipse instead. Play your Ronnies on your flanks, then shuffle them back into your deck with Chimera Eclipse to use them again later on. Number 2 is Tribute and Exile, another Worlds Collide exclusive. Tribute is known as one of the best Ember control cards in the game, allowing your most powerful creature to capture 2 upon play, then capture 2 more if you choose to exalt it. Having that much Ember on a friendly creature can be pretty dangerous, but thankfully there are a number of cards that can negate that threat for you, one of which is Exile. Send that Ember Pinata over to the opponent's side of the board so now it's their problem to deal with, and all that Ember goes to you and the creature dies. Now you just need some way to kill that creature, whether that's through fighting or direct removal. If you don't have Exile, try 6 Ember Tyrannosaurus. If the creature you just tributed onto is the biggest on the board, 6 Ember will move all that captured Ember directly into your pool and then destroy the creature afterwards. Imperial Forge is also a great option. If you don't have a way to move that captured Ember into your pool or away from your board, you can instead use it to forge with this key cheat, which costs +8 current cost, -1 for each Ember on friendly creatures. At max value, a single tribute will load a creature up with 5 Ember, a huge chunk of that cost. And lastly, if you don't have a tribute to pair with any of these cards, try Crassosaurus, another card that captures massive amounts of Ember at once. Number 3 is Archimedes and Bouncing Deathquark, a card also known as BDQ. BDQ is a phenomenal source of board control, hitting both a friendly creature and an enemy creature as many times as you want, and Archimedes archives his neighbors when they're destroyed. So as you resolve BDQ, just continue to destroy Archimedes' neighbors, clearing the opponent's board while archiving yours. By the time you're finished, the opponent will have suffered some major board damage, whereas you'll have an archive full of creatures, preferably ones with good play effects such as Ronnie or Helperbot. Number 4 utilizes Binet Rupture and Interdimensional Graft. The combo is typically referred to as BRIG, and functions by first playing Binet Rupture and Alpha at the start of your turn, doubling each player's Ember. Ideally, this will send the opponent far above check, and it's even better if they were at check to begin with, so they end up with 12 or more Ember in their pool. Then you play the Graft, so that when they forge, you get all their leftover Ember. So if you double them to 14 and they forge at 6, they would transfer a whopping 8 Ember into your pool. You could even play a Titan Mechanic on a flank so that keys cost less when they forge, and they're forced to give you even more Ember. Number 5 is another simple AoE combo. They're everywhere and Save the Pack. Save the Pack can be a pretty frustrating piece of board control to use. A lot of the time it can feel like it doesn't do anything or just hurts you more than the opponent. They're Everywhere, on the other hand, puts damage on each enemy creature, 2 on the flank creatures and 1 to everyone in between. If none of your creatures are damaged, then playing Save the Pack afterward will essentially act as a one-sided board wipe. Even if a couple of your creatures are damaged, it's still probably worth playing, since you'll be clearing most of, if not all of your opponent's board, armor and wards being a couple of things that can interrupt this combo. Number 6 is Bow-Nithing and Safe House. Bow-Nithing is one of those cards that's not very effective early game, but late game, when your opponent has most likely forged some keys, that's when he starts firing off, stealing 1 Ember for each forged key your opponent has. Safe House is a great card to use to store him safely away until he's useful again. And then, when late game has arrived, he becomes a huge threat with Safe House, because you can play him, steal 2, then archive him for next turn, when you can pull him from the archives to steal another 2. Throw a couple enhancements on Bow-Nithing, and you've got a monster on your hands. Number 7 is one of the most infamous combos in the game, GENKA, consisting of Martian Generosity and Key Abduction. Martian Generosity allows you to lose all your Ember and draw 2 cards for each Ember lost, and Key Abduction lets you forge a key at +9 current cost, -1 for each card in your hand, so you should already be able to see where this is going. For losing even just 5 Ember, you'll draw 10 cards. For losing something more like 8 Ember, you'll draw 16 cards, which is enough to forge with Key Abduction for free if keys cost 6. 0 Ember, no cost, meaning it literally doesn't even matter that you just lost all your Ember by playing Martian Generosity, and now you have most of your deck in hand for absolutely massive follow-up turns. Other good support cards to have include Nepenthe Seed, so you can put Key Abduction back into your hand right after playing it, and Glixel Proliferator with Mars first, so that after playing Generosity or pulling off the GENKA, you can immediately archive one or both of the pieces on that same turn. If you don't have the Martian Generosity, Total Recall is a card that also pairs quite well with Key Abduction. It's definitely something to be on the lookout for when opening AoA decks. Or if you're opening Call of the Archons, Battlefleet and Key Abduction is a similar though less consistent version of the combo. Number 8 is another combo that can result in a cheap key and huge hand, Final Analysis and Data Forge. Final Analysis destroys each creature, then both players draw a card for each creature they controlled that was destroyed this way. So if you had a really big board, dropping a Final Analysis on it would result in you drawing quite a few cards. And then Data Forge is identical to Key Abduction, but costs 1 extra. So blow up your board, draw a bunch of cards, then drop Data Forge for a potentially cheap key. Number 9 is Amphora Captura and Scrivener Favian for Mass Mutation. Amphora Captura is a stellar artifact, allowing you to resolve any bonus icon on cards you play as a capture bonus icon instead. And once you know it, Scrivener Favian allows you to steal an Ember instead of capture it when resolving a capture bonus icon. So first, choose to resolve your bonus icon as a capture using Amphora's ability, and then steal with that capture icon using Favian's ability. It's really as simple as that when you have both cards on the board at the same time, but can be very powerful, especially if you have lots of capture icons in your deck, enhanced by Salvador's and the like, even Favian herself. Number 10 explores ways to get a big cleansing wave burst, and one of my favorite ways to do it in Dark Tidings is with Honor or Glory, allowing you to deal 3 damage to each flank creature, or to each creature not on a flank. Of course, if the board is full of nothing but tiny creatures, Honor or Glory will more than likely just clear most of the board, but if there are lots of bigger creatures out there, there's potential for it to set up for a really nice cleansing wave. In Mass Mutation, Dark Minion and Smite are a couple cards that go great with it as well. In Call of the Archons, something like Ammonia Clouds or the Horseman of Pestilence will also do in a pinch. Number 11 is Gateway to Dis plus Arise. Arise returns each creature of a single house from your discard pile to your hand, so right after you clear the board with Gateway to Dis, you can call a bunch of creatures of a single house from your discard pile back to your hand with Arise. If you put all your Dis creatures back into your hand, you can play them all out immediately, putting your opponent in a state where they critically need board control. Or if you return creatures of a house other than Dis to your hand, you can wait until a later turn to drop them all down. Either way, it's a pretty strong combo, and definitely one to look out for in Coda. Number 12 revolves around City State Interest, a phenomenal Ember control card. City State has each friendly creature capture an Ember from the opponent, so combo that with Axiom of Grisk, a board wipe that destroys each creature with no Ember on it, and you've got yourself a one-sided board wipe. If, of course, the opponent doesn't have any creatures with Ember on them. But even still, City State is a great card to protect your creatures from an Axiom, whether it's yours or the opponent's. I also really enjoy pairing Ancient Power with City State, effectively enabling you to ward your entire battle line at once. And in Dark Tidings, pair City State with Bury Riches, moving 1 Ember from each creature into its controller's pool if the tide is high, so all that Ember you just captured with City State goes directly to you. Number 13 is Fangtooth Cavern and Keyfrog. Keyfrog has a destroyed effect that allows you to forge a key at current cost, but it's not always that easy to destroy Keyfrog on the same turn that you play him. Fangtooth Cavern can help solve that problem, destroying the least powerful creature at the end of your turn. So if 2 power is the lowest power on the board by the end of your turn, and you've generated enough Ember to forge a key, Keyfrog will die to Fangtooth's effect, and you can forge. And remember, if it's the end of your turn and there are multiple 2-power creatures as the lowest on the board, you as the active player gets to choose which 2-power creature dies. So if you've got enough to forge, choose your Keyfrog. A couple other great cards to go with Keyfrog are Waste Not and Ritual of Life, both allowing you to straight up destroy a friendly creature during your Untamed turn, making it really easy to pop your Keyfrog when the time is right without giving your opponent a chance to deal with it. Number 14 is from Dark Tidings, Rakuzel's Chant and Storm Surge. Rakuzel's Chant exhausts every creature on the board if the tide is high, rendering your opponent's battle line pretty much useless on their next turn. Then you can drop Storm Surge, which makes it so during the step of their turn when their creatures would usually ready, they don't. So that's 2 turns in a row, where the opponent can't make any use of their battle line, which can be absolutely crippling. If you can then chain together multiple Storm Surges in a row, that's when things can get real wild. And of course, Unfathomable has a number of great ways to exploit exhausted boards in DT, with cards like Sleep with the Fishes or Tama of the Glow, so be on the lookout for those too. Number 15 is Punctuated Equilibrium and Auto-Encoder. Punky Q is my favorite card in the game, with the extremely powerful effect of having each player discard their hand and redraw as if it was their draw card step. Super disruptive, super efficient, great all around. Auto-Encoder makes it so whenever you discard a card from your hand, you archive the top card of your deck. Pair that with Punky Q and things get crazy. Say you have Auto-Encoder out and you play Punky Q with 5 cards left in your hand. Not only do you discard those 5 cards from your hand, you will also archive the top 5 cards of your deck because of the Auto-Encoder, and refill your hand like it's the end of your turn, which in most cases will mean drawing 6 cards. It's a pretty insane play, instantly creating a pretty sizable archive and cycling through your deck at lightning speeds. But if your opponent has an Auto-Encoder out, you may want to be a little more wary about playing that Punky Q. Number 16 is Infurnace plus Hysteria. Infurnace is a pretty infamous card for that powerful play effect, both purging problematic cards from the opponent's deck and deleting their Ember for doing so. With Hysteria, you could get that play effect multiple times in one turn. Play Infurnace, then play Hysteria to put each creature back in their owner's hands, including that Infurnace you just played down, then play the Infurnace again to get that dastardly play effect a second time. Number 17 is Ganger Chieftain and Drummernaut, also known as the Gangernaut combo. Ganger Chieftain lets you ready and fight with a neighboring creature when you play him, and Drummernaut returns another friendly giant creature to your hand when you play, fight, or reap with him, meaning you can bounce Ganger Chieftain back into your hand right after having played him next to the Drummernaut to ready and fight with him. As you can see, this creates something of a loop, allowing you to play Ganger, ready and fight with Drummer, bounce Ganger back to hand, play Ganger again, ready and fight with Drummer, and so on and so forth until the Drummernaut dies or you've hit the rule of 6 limit. This combo also works frighteningly well against an empty board, because if you don't have anything to fight after playing Ganger, then you can reap with Drummer instead, which will also bounce Ganger back to hand per Drummernaut's reap ability. So you can play Ganger, reap with Drummer, bounce Ganger back to hand, play Ganger again, ready and reap with Drummer, and continue with this loop until you choose to stop or hit the rule of 6 limit. If you use it that way, it creates a source of some really fast Ember Burst that forces your opponent into a tough scenario. You'll see this combo pretty often in AoE decks, since both these creatures are common, so be sure to look out for it. Number 18 revolves around Nature's Call and cards such as Dust Pixie and Chota Hazri. If you have a Call of the Archons deck with a Full Moon, a Dust Pixie, a Nature's Call, and a Chota Hazri, you've got a fast deck on your hands. You could even exchange the Full Moon for Hunting Witch or the Chota Hazri for a Key Charge and move at similar speeds. Full Moon and Hunting Witch let you gain an Ember every time you play a creature, and Dust Pixie gives 2 raw Ember just for playing it, so you gain 3 when you play it under the effect of one of those 2 cards. Then return it and a couple other untamed creatures to your hand with a Nature's Call, and play them all out again, gaining even more Ember. Then finish it all off with a key cheat. It can be hard to get all the pieces to line up in your hand, but if you've got decent archiving with a Logos Pod or something along those lines, you may be able to craft it a little easier. Number 19 is Cincinnatus Rex and the Golden Spiral. When you fight with Rex, you may exalt him, and if you do, you ready each other friendly card, and that includes artifacts, not just creatures. Golden Spiral allows you to exalt, ready, and use a friendly creature, and so the loop presents itself. Go ahead and use all those other friendly Saurian cards first, such as Falaphosaurus, Questor Jarda, Library of Polyosaurus, or even your Golden Spiral, then fight with Rex and exalt him, readying everything you just used. Then you can repeat the process over again, using all your Saurian stuff, then use the Golden Spiral to exalt, ready, and fight with Rex again, starting the loop over. It's a super powerful combo, although just like with the Gangernaut combo, you do need to adhere to the rule of 6. And keep in mind that Rex dies if there are no enemy creatures on the board, and that Rex needs to survive the fight in order for his fight ability to go off. This combo enables for some insane burst, but there is a lot of exalting going on, so if you've got any Prefectus Ludos or Imperial Scutums in your deck to protect that Ember, the combo will be a little safer to execute. The last combo for today is from Dark Tidings, Kerwollop and Easy Marks. Kerwollop deals 1 damage to each creature, and you gain 1 Ember for each creature destroyed that way. Easy Marks exalts each damaged enemy creature, so Kerwollop the board, then play Easy Marks to exalt each enemy creature that was damaged by it. As long as the opponent's board isn't protected by a bunch of armor or wards, this should instantly load up their board with Ember for you to obtain through getting rid of their creatures. And earlier we were talking about cards that go well with Cleansing Wave. Kerwollop is also one of them. And there we have it, 20 must-know KeyForge combos. Hopefully for you new or returning KeyForge players, this video will help you get a bit of a head start in your gameplay. Be sure to be on the lookout for these combos when you're opening decks or when scanning an opponent's deck list, and check your collection to see if you have some of these combos already. There are plenty of other important combos out there as well, so if you want a second video like this, let me know, and leave any other thoughts you have in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you all again in the next one. See you later.